Hey there, it's Gary Parrish. It's Monday, March 14, 2022. Welcome back to CBS Sports Iowa College Basketball Podcast, where we sometimes discuss camel fighting, dodo birds, and leaky black. Matt Norlander is here with me. Chip Patterson is here with me. Happy Monday after Selection Sunday. And as I told you on Sunday night's podcast, we are doing 4, hopefully short, look at the clock and tell us if we got there or not, short previews of each region. This is one of them. We're previewing the West, where Gonzaga is the number 1 seed. Duke is the 2 seed. Texas Tech is the 3 seed. And Arkansas is the number 4 seed. Chip, I'll start with you. What first-round game in the West Regional are you most looking forward to?
Arkansas and Vermont, because prior to the release of the bracket, I had Eric Musselman's Razorbacks as that dark horse kind of team. You know, they always ask us questions for CBS Sports HQ, find a team below this line on the betting board who you think could be able to make a deep run in the tournament. And with, clearly JD Note and the way that he played and the way that this Arkansas team defends, I liked a lot of the pieces for Arkansas to, again, make it to the second weekend and maybe cause some real problems. However, then the bracket was released and I see them getting paired against Vermont, which, by the way, Arkansas only about a 5.5 point favorite. I mean, that's when the alarm bells go off. Like, as a matter of principle, if you are a higher seed, but that betting line is within 2 possessions, then you are very, very likely going to be in danger at some point in this game. And so for a lot of reasons, I think that Arkansas, Vermont, both for what it means to Arkansas, but also what it means to the rest of the bracket in terms of if Arkansas were to lose, that really opens things up for UConn, another team that a lot of people are excited about. And so I just think that in the way that the whole West region is set up, whether or not Arkansas is a factor in the Sweet 16 is going to be a big part of that. And so with them only being about a 2-possession favorite against a very, very good Vermont team, I think that's the first round game that I think is going to be the most impactful on how the region plays out.
Same for you?
Yeah, I agree. Huge Northeast presence, by the way, in this pod. This is in Buffalo, so you'll have UConn fans that'll drive there. You'll have Vermont fans that'll drive there, and on the other side of the bracket, but this pod is Providence. There's going to be just really, really good relatively local fan bases get there. Arkansas, Vermont is it for me. I think that the West, it's going to have firecrackers. I love this. I love this region. I wrote about it for CBSSports.com. It's on the CBS Sports app. We have a lot to like in this part of the bracket. Arkansas Vermont is the most enticing, entertaining game heading in matchup. We could look up, and for all we know, Texas Tech versus Montana State winds up being the best game in this region. It's why I adore this tournament, is because we always find ways to get surprised. But going in, to me, the most enticing. Vermont's been on fire, man. They have been destroying opponents, just won their games by an average of 37 in the America East. It was the largest average margin of victory for any team in any league tournament in more than 3 decades there. Arkansas can win this game. It can lose it. It can also, I think, pose a threat to Gonzaga if they were meet in the Sweet 16 there. So, yeah, I want to see what John Becker's team can do against an Arkansas team that has been really, really good at times. Remember, it did have a swoon. It's capable of having a letdown game here. Both teams will be pretty ready to go, and I think it's just a terrific X and O matchup between both these squads.
You make a great point. Arkansas can win or lose this game.
Not a lot of people are talking about it, and that's why you come to the Eye on College Basketball podcast. It's not talked about enough how much Arkansas can win or lose a basketball game. This doesn't get talked about, period, until we get to the month of March. Here I am telling you right now, that's going to play Vermont. There are 2 outcomes that can happen here. Arkansas can win this game against Vermont. Arkansas can also lose this game against Vermont. You're not going to find that kind of information anywhere else.
Listen, I don't want to get too out there, as we discuss what may or may not happen in this bracket, but honestly, after looking at it, I'd say the same thing for UConn. They could win. They could win or they could lose.
Oh, that is also true. Yeah.
How about this? Here's a prediction for you.
Okay.
Either UConn or Arkansas will lose. They will not play each other in the round of 32. I don't know which one. One of them's going to lose.
Doesn't this feel like, to GP's point, Chip, doesn't this specific one, 5-12 UConn, New Mexico State, 4-13 Arkansas, Vermont. You look at the entire bracket. Doesn't that double dip feel the most likely to have a double-digit seed move along?
No, but
really,
yeah, we can talk about that when we get to the South region with that Houston, UAB, Illinois.
I'm not gonna be here. To quote Magic Johnson, I'm not on that episode, but sure, that's fine.
But your points are, I'm not as high just with my own personal analysis on New Mexico State, but I very much like the the idea that there's so much excitement in that building. There's just such like incredible energy, and you know what's going to get the other fans really hyped up, watching some double digit seeds threaten for an upset or pull it off outright. So 100% could see it.
So look, I don't think UConn and Arkansas will both win. I mean, they obviously could, as Norlander detailed earlier.
People aren't talking about it. Arkansas and UConn can win their games, and they can both lose them.
Yeah,
do you think that they'll be more disappointed? So that's trying to set up Arkansas, UConn to say it's not going to happen. There's so much buzz about another Mike Krzyzewski, Tom Izzo matchup in the second round. That one also feels like it's a little bit too sweet and might get disrupted by the normal funny bounces of March.
Well, that is my favorite first round game in this regional. Michigan State and Davidson. Foster Lawyer against his old team.
Right.
Foster Lawyer could barely play at Michigan State. Now he's going to drop 22 on Michigan State in the first round of the NCAA tournament. I think Davidson wins that game. And trivia time. Michigan State lost its first game in the NCAA tournament last season. It was in the first four to UCLA overtime. Okay. If they lose this game, they will lose in their first game in the NCAA tournament in back-to-back years. When's the last time Tom Izzo lost his first game in the NCAA tournament in back-to-back years?
95-96.
Chip, do you have an answer? Would you like to participate in trivia time?
03-04.
The answer is never.
Wow.
Never lost his first game in back-to-back NCAA tournaments, but I do believe he's at risk of it. I think Davidson's terrific offensively. And Michigan State has just been just like, it's wild because you almost grade them on a you judge them like on a curve. It's like, why isn't Michigan State awesome? Like Michigan State is usually awesome. They're still good. Like they've still been good most of the season, but I think Davidson gets them here. And then we get Bob McKillop, Mike Krzyzewski in the round of 32.
That's not what we get. Okay.
What do we get? What are we talking about?
The disrespect at Bates Jones must stop. Okay, everyone's talking about Foster Lawyer playing against his former team. We got the Bates Jones Bowl. Left Davidson to go to Duke. Duke Davidson. K. McKillop, fine. Bates Jones going up against his former team? Nobody's talking about it. Only this podcast there. Obviously, there's tremendous potential overall. The West looks just. How about this? Feels like the best West region that we've had 5, 6, 7 years. I can't remember the last time we had this many interesting teams, potential storylines, balance in the bracket. Texas Tech's the 3. It's the best defensive team in the country. It's got Gonzaga, the best team. Duke, it's been slippery, doesn't deserve a 2, but it is. So, so it goes. Duke is as talented as pretty much any team in the country. The questions are with its defense. Arkansas, obviously capable on the 4 line. It's been a while since I think we've had a West that was this well stacked.
Before we go any further, real quick, let me remind you about our bracket challenge game. We want you to compete with us. Do it. You have been challenged. I'll be in it. Norlander, Cal Boone, David Ncaa, Chip Patterson. We're all going to be in there at cbssports.com/CBSI on brackets. The winner going to get a $100 gift card to Paramount Plus, which could come in handy because you're able to, among other things, watch NCAA tournament games on Paramount Plus. Also, Champions League, golf, NFL, and also Halo going to be streaming exclusively on Paramount Plus on March 24th. When you enter our bracket challenge game, don't stop there. You can also create a group to compete against friends or enemies. Compete against your enemies. You can fill out a bracket for the chance to win a trip to the 2023 Final Four, and it's all free. Won't cost you anything. You can play on the CBS Sports app or at cbssports.com/CBSI on brackets. Dead leg. Do you see an unlikely Sweet 16 team in the West Region?
Oh boy. Yeah, I do actually, because I have it in my bracket right now. I'm out of my mind.
You picked Memphis. You picked Memphis.
I did not. I did not. Although Jalen Duren versus Chet Holmgren second round would be intriguing. Gonzaga will either, you'll get Gonzaga, Memphis probably, or Boise State. That's Leon Rice and Mark Few are the best of friends. So Leon Rice can't be happy right now. as a no, by the way, wins the Mountain West regular season and conference tournament, gets an 8. Colorado State doesn't either, gets a 6. I thought they both should have been 7s. So it goes here. Unlikely. Dude, this is what I have right now. I think, you know what? I'm going to stick with this. I'm not walking this back. I will go down with this ship.
Oh, wow.
I won't put my hands up.
Jonathan Chamwa Chachawa.
Vermont to the regional semifinals.
Okay.
Over Arkansas. You want unlikely? I'll show you unlikely. Vermont over Arkansas. UConn to beat New Mexico State. New England special out in Buffalo. John Becker goes up against Dan Hurley. Vermont gets it done. 13 seed, breaks into the second weekend. That is my unlikely second weekend pick. I'm going to guess that if either of you have a choice here, you're maybe likely to say Rutgers.
No. Though it is my biggest burning question. What Alabama do we get? Because that team has been so many different Alabamas throughout the entire year. And its ceiling and its floor are spaced so far away that I could see Alabama losing, or I could see Alabama going on to also beat Texas Tech and maybe even cause some problems for Duke, or if Duke were to be upset in Greenville in the second round, one of those teams. Like I think the Crimson Tide are a fascinating team, but I respect them enough that I'm not going to pick either Rutgers or Notre Dame to be able to advance to the Sweet 16. All my eyes are just a card-carrying, certified, triple platinum, all the punch cards hit, Gonzaga Hateration University. I would take Memphis to the Sweet 16. I will take UConn to the Sweet 16. I mean, listen, I will take UConn to the Elite 8. I think that if you pull down my bracket, which, by the way, I love entering the bracket challenge. I mean, maybe you guys mix it up, but you get to autofill an expert bracket. And guess who are the expert brackets that fans can autofill? Us. So I just go in and I'll invite me to all of your bracket challenges, because you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna autofill my own picks. It takes me no time. So I've got Gonzaga going down before the Elite 8. I think I've got UConn in the Elite 8 going up against Duke and either Duke or Texas Tech. And so I'm just gonna be jumping on the other side of Gonzaga here.
Chip, you're gonna mess around and end up on the Gary Parrish show talking this much about Memphis.
I would be a repeat guest, a friend of the show, as they like to say in the industry.
In all seriousness, and I am not suggesting that this is as true as it sounds. I'm just saying it's a fact that Sam Vecini, who should be joining us any minute now.
Yeah, any minute.
That Sam Vecini tweeted on Saturday night. Now, this was before Memphis lost to Houston in the AAC tournament title game. Tigers now 2-1 against Houston on the season. Since the day after Imani Bates stopped playing basketball, I phrase that deliberately. Some people say since Imani Bates had to stop because of an injury. I'm just saying he stopped playing basketball. Since the day he stopped playing basketball, Memphis rated, according to BartTorvik.com, as the second best team in the entire country behind only Gonzaga. Do with it what you want. You mentioned Jalen Duren against Chet Holmgren possibility in the round of 32. Like, these got some great prospects in this region.
And it would be more Duren on Timmy, just to be clear, but they're just high. Right. Those are highly ranked prospects. This
is actually the reason I don't love. There's a lot of reasons you wouldn't love a Memphis matchup with Gonzaga. One is because Gonzaga is the best team in the country. The other would be Memphis's strength is DeAndre Williams and Jalen Duren. Is that better than Chet Holmgren and Drew Timme? Like, your strength is probably not a strength in this particular game. But in terms of prospects within the region, Chet Holmgren, Jalen Duren, Paulo Banchero. I mean, you got 3 possible top 5 picks, playing in the West Regional.
It's fantastic. We highlighted in our region by region breakdowns on the app and CBSSports.com, players to watch. And I just try to stick with one player per team, but Duren, I had Chet Holmgren, clearly Paulo Banchero is another one there. J.D. Davidson at Alabama, Ron Harper Jr. at Rutgers, J.D. Note, who would have been the player of the year in the SEC if Oscar Tshiebwe wasn't suiting up for Kentucky. UConn, Tyrese Martin is certainly a guy to watch there. There's a lot all over the place here. You could make the argument that some other regions actually have more overall star power, but we've got some NBA lottery talent in this part of the bracket, and it's pretty awesome, pretty fascinating. I just can't wait for this to get going. I will be in the bottom half, the lower fourth, if you will, in Greenville for Michigan State, Davidson, Duke, and Cal State Fullerton. Those are Friday, Sunday games. Oh, by the way,
value bet to win the region. Obviously, Gonzaga is the favorite, number 1 overall seed. Chip's got basically everybody except Gonzaga winning the region. Norlander, where are you? You got to pick somebody that's not, say, a top 2 seed. So you can't pick Gonzaga, can't pick Duke. Who you taking if you had to go outside of that for a team to get to the Final Four?
I'm going to institute my own barrier and say I can't pick Texas Tech. So outside the top 3, Arkansas is the play. Now, again, I have Arkansas losing in the first round. I'm not picking Arkansas to do this. I'm just trying to speak to the listener that might be trying to figure this out. If Arkansas breaks through, I actually like the way Arkansas play. Arkansas, great defensive team, gets up and down. It plays with efficiency, plays fast, and its defense doesn't wilt. I actually think that's a good matchup against Gonzaga. Arkansas would be an underdog, understandably so, but it has the bodies. Jalen Williams, I actually think Jalen Williams is tall enough, long enough, and good enough defensively to match up decently enough with Chet Holmgren. I think that he'd probably be on Timmy just as much, but I think Williams is diverse enough. But if we get there, we'll save that for breaking down for the second weekend. Arkansas would be my pick, but as Chip mentioned, you've got some really tempting options here. Even Alabama on the 6th line has beaten Gonzaga this season, in addition to the likes of Baylor, Houston, Tennessee, Arkansas. So there's a lot of teams that actually have the ability to get out of this region, I think.
Like the Zags only lost 3 times all year, and 2 of the teams that beat them are here. Yeah, Alabama. Yeah. We should have got St. Mary's over here. I think there's probably some bracketing principles that won't allow that, but that's what we should have done. Make Gonzaga go through the teams that beat them this season to get back to the Final Four.
Yeah, this is absurd, because if we get any of these rematches along the way, that is disadvantage to Gonzaga. If Gonzaga, Gonzaga is the best team in the country. Gonzaga presents a unique style and unique pieces on the floor. And if you've already gotten one crack at them to see how your team matches up against them, then going up against the best team in college basketball again is an advantage to you. So no matter who it is, if Gonzaga meets a former opponent for the second time, I think that is a disadvantage to the favorites.
All right, Chip, first round games in the West Regional. From a betting perspective, what do you like?
From a betting perspective, I absolutely love getting the opportunity to catch those points with Vermont. I already mentioned how it's the first round upset that I'm definitely keeping my eyes on. Then elsewhere, I think that I would think that there's just a few too many daggum points for Texas Tech to be able to cover that number against Montana State, just with the way that they defend, with the way that game might be a little lower scoring. I think that the underdog might have a chance to hang in that game. And then Davidson, they're 63.3% against the spread in terms of teams just within this region. That is the best against the spread number in the entire region. So if you're looking at Michigan State Davidson, like we mentioned earlier, I think that the Wildcats have a real shot. They are a narrow underdog, so you're not getting them to just cover a spread. You also need them to win outright, but they were exceeding expectations more often as a favorite, and again, covering the spread at a region best 63.3% of the time.
Line that you hate the most of all the first round games in the West is what, Chip?
The stinkiest line. Oh, UConn -7. You don't want to sweat that out. Because that's a classic example of your motivations as a gambler watching the game are totally incongruent with the motivations of what's happening on the floor, where you're trying to be like, no, don't blow that. And, Coach Dane Hurley's like, no, that's okay. That's okay. Like, we just need to calm. We need to settle. We're only trying to win by 1. You're trying to win by 8. I don't want to lose connection with the spirit of the NCAA tournament just because of bets or gambling. And so
that is the spirit and connection with the NCAA tournament. Well, I know what you're saying, though. I know what you're saying.
Yeah, you don't want to be rooting for UConn to cover 7 when there is going to be plenty of motivation to like dribble the clock out and just make sure you get out with the win by any margin.
All right, we will pick our West Regional winners next. But before we do that, let me real quickly tell you what our friends at Sportsline are up to during this bracket week. You can get every pick, every play, every upset, and fill out your bracket with the help of some of the best sports data analysts in the game. Visit Sportsline right now. See which teams will make or break your bracket and see who cuts down the nets, all from the model that beat nearly 90% of brackets last tournament 1 year after finishing in the top 5%. Just realize that copy's wrong. There was no one. It wasn't just 2 years.
That's right.
I didn't write it.
I'm Ron Burgundy?
It took me reading it 4 times before I realized that's not right. There was no tournament in 2020.
The pandemic messed it. Whatever. Everyone knows. Okay. There's no tournament in 2020. Just
you know what I mean. You know what I mean. All right. Norlander, who you got winning the West?
Will we have a unity lock for the first time in Eye on College Basketball podcast history?
I don't think so.
Okay, that's a Chip Patterson Cover 3 special. By the way, if you're enjoying Chip, well, we absolutely are, and he is the host of the Cover 3 podcast, College Football. Highly encourage you to go find that. They are doing frequent podcasts every single week, even during the off season. I'm going to go with Gonzaga to get out of this region. I think it beats Duke in the Elite Eight. There is no matchup pre-Final Four that is more enticing and will draw a bigger rating or more interest anywhere, any round before the Final Four than Gonzaga versus Duke. You've got the number 1 team in the country. You've got Mike Krzyzewski in his last season at the biggest brand in the sport. A 1-2 matchup, a rematch from November. It's the one that I think everyone wants to see. If it gets to that point, I will be there in San Francisco for HQN.com and the podcast, The Whole Deal, following Duke. I'd love to see it. I'm going to predict we're going to see it, and I will have Gonzaga as the best team in the sport, getting a win, avenging its loss against the Blue Devils from November, and moving on to New Orleans.
Chip?
The Texas Tech Red Raiders. Mark Adams leads Texas Tech into the Final Four. Kevin O'Banner, superstar in March once again. Adonis Arms, just a heartthrob across the country as everyone just falls in love with the tenacity of this defense. The West is where I see the most, I guess you could call it bracket chaos. And sometimes to be able to emerge from that, it is the team that doesn't necessarily look as well-rounded, where Texas Tech, as you mentioned earlier, best defensive team in the country in terms of adjusted efficiency. But that one strength, as the bracket is sort of crumbling around and expectations are getting shaken, I think that strength is something that could be very advantageous. So I've got Texas Tech coming out of the West.
It's possible. Like, they're really good. They're really good. And how wild is it? What if I had told you all of these things 5 years ago?
Right.
Here's the way this is going to unfold. Texas Tech is going to lose its coach to Memphis. Then it will hire a new coach. That coach will take them to a Final Four, to a title game. Then they'll lose that coach. And then they'll have another coach and, hypothetically, go to another Final Four, making it 2 Final Fours in a 3-tournament span.
Incorporate the quick Chip college football angle. If that were to happen, Chip, what school on the college football level would that equate to in terms of, making a CFP title game that doesn't have a lot of, huge history on the gridiron, but comes from a power conference? Who would that be?
Texas Tech.
Okay.
Or a Baylor, like they didn't make it the title game, but when Baylor took off, obviously with a cloud of complete negligence to the handling of sexual assault allegations. But like when the Baylor Rocket first took off and they were co-Big 12 champions in 2014, left out of the college football playoff, that team was just came out of absolute nowhere. And if I was to tell you 5 years before that Baylor would be one of the 5 best teams in the country, you would think it's absolutely crazy.
I'll go with Gonzaga. I've got the Zags winning the national championship. I do this every year. I'm going to keep picking them every year until they do it. Every year.
You will go down with the ship.
I'm going to keep doing it every year. I really do think I've done it at least 3 straight years.
At least for 3 straight tournaments.
3 straight tournaments. Sounds like Chip needs to double check the copy next time. I was wrong. So I'll go with the Zags again. They are the betting favorite. They are the best team in practically every computer. They've got 2 of the best, let's call it 5 players in college sports, college basketball, and, maybe the number 1 pick in the draft. That's a lot of good stuff to have heading into the NCAA tournament. So I'll go Gonzaga, Norlander, Gonzaga, and Chip goes with the Texas Tech Red Raiders to to win the West Regional. Shouts to Devin Downey. Shouts to Chester, South Carolina. Shouts to Larnell. Thank you guys once again for listening. The Eye on College Basketball Podcast. If you're not subscribed, please go subscribe. Anywhere you subscribe to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify. 5 stars, nice review. There's more of us than there are of them. If you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, I don't know why. I've been begging you for months. God, if you haven't done it, like at some point, I just need to stop. You know, like if you haven't done it by now, you're probably not going to do it. It's like, how many times would you ask a girl out and she just refuses to respond to you and you just keep doing it? You'd stay like
pro consent household. You know, the Patterson boys here, pro consent. So
we're pro consent too. We're pro consent.
Yeah. If I get a no, then I got to respect that. I don't have consent.
Yeah, I think at some point you're stalking a little bit if you just keep asking over and over again.
Agreed.
So like I'm about to be done asking.
Listen, we have to end this episode now. You asked Chip on the next one with Cobb his stance on premarital sex. We need him on the record.
Oh yeah. We have never got
next episode. Yeah.
Do you have something to look forward to? Talk to you again real soon. Till then, take care.